going into the commander's office, and he said, Rita, normally you would be gone, but all of these slips were because you were helping somebody else. They were not about you. You were doing something for somebody else, making somebody else's bed, trying to braid their hair so they wouldn't get in trouble and all these different things. And he says, we need people like you in the military, but you better not do it again.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Good for Business podcast. I'm here with one of my oldest friends in Columbus over time, not of age, Rita Felton, consultant to the stars, former, what was your job at the Air Force? Let's start with that.
Yes.
Tell me your entire life story in 5 minutes.
All right, in 5 minutes?
No, you got all the time.
Okay, all right, thanks. So although, like you said, most people know me as the former Command Chief Master Sergeant from Columbus Air Force Base, but I can tell you, and like many of your guests, it didn't start that way. Started in a very meager and humbling environment. And when I even hear myself tell the story, I just realize how good God is to me and how he has orchestrated this entire journey to bring me right here to be with you today. So that's exciting. That's exciting. I was actually born in Selma, Alabama, and I often equate that to during the civil rights movement, where there was a lot of dark times. And actually, when I'm out and about, and especially when I'm talking to students, and I ask them, who do you see? And they see this, like the distinguished person or having on this military uniform. And I tell them, I said, actually, my beginning started in a little house in a prairie life. No running water in this little house. I actually was a little girl that was going to the well and actually getting a bucket of water to bring it back in the house and bringing piles of wood in my hand, back in the house to start the fire. And so that was actually my humble beginnings. And when I think about, where I'm at today, is simply amazing. My mom actually passed away when I was 6 months old from tuberculosis. And because of during that time, she was unable to get the support that she actually needed, blood transfusion and all of this, and getting her from point A to point B in that environment. And so my grandparents, of course, took on that role, and my mom had 11 brothers and sisters. So when I tell you that I'm a product of a community, of a village, I was raised by a village. And so my family, as they would, was older, of course, and would move around, I found myself, being able to go from here to there, helping them take care of my cousins and different things like that. So I've always been the one that's been very, very close to my entire family having that experience. But even during that time, one of the things that really helped me was having a teacher named Mrs. Yeager. Miss Yeager was my third grade teacher, and she knew that I was an avid reader. And because she went to the librarian and she said, give her 4 books she could take home every Friday. And I would go and read, and I would have them all done. And so I would get those chores done so that I could go and sit in the corner and read those books. And I remember my grandparents, were not great readers. And so when we got the mail, I literally would sit on the floor reading the mail to them, so that they can get what they had to get done. And so that was the beginnings. And later, because of complications and life would have it, my grandmother and I, we relocated to New Haven, Connecticut, where a couple of my aunts and uncles had moved. And we knew that would be a better place for us as well. So the two of us, we packed up and we went there. And completely, stark difference in life from Selma, Alabama to New Haven, Connecticut. And it was different. And coming from that environment, a lot of people saw me as, the little outcast little child, in the school, talked a little different at the time and all of that. So that part of the beginning.
New Haven, Connecticut is slightly different than Selma, Alabama. And I can tell you about this. My mother was born in Massachusetts, but raised in Atlanta, and then went to University of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And, even she's talked about drastic differences. And everybody thinks I think a lot of people from the South, deep South, who aren't in New Orleans or Atlanta, think that the whole Northeast is, New York, New York, Boston, or whatever.
Right.
There are redneckery in Atlanta. I mean, there's redneckery all over New York, Pennsylvania. Like, there's small country, beat up country towns, and even Connecticut. I mean, as small as it is, there's a lot of wealth there, but there's also a lot of poverty there too. Did you find it? I mean, you're in Selma, Alabama, which I would consider ground zero of the civil rights movement.
Right.
At what age did you leave there?
I was in my teens.
Okay,
teens.
so you were there for real. And can you talk about is there a stark difference between there and acceptance and racial tension and stuff when you go to New Haven, Connecticut?
Yeah, it was hard sometimes, but I learned a lot. And the thing for me, Colin, was being an avid learner and reading, and as a child, having the imagination that were way beyond my years, because I grew up around all my, older aunts and uncles. And so the way that I thought was a little bit different, because I had already kind of been looking at these books and reading and realizing my life could be so much better. So it kind of sparked something in me that was for me. It was for Rita, that no one else could take away, that the possibilities of greater was going to be coming. And I don't know, even as a child, that's how I thought. But I think that it's because my grandmother, having 12 kids, had great faith. And that great faith is what she gave to me, because I watched it, throughout my life. And even all of the things that she went through, even when I think about it, it really hurts my heart. Because it seems like, the struggles that she went through was just so deep, and so when I think about my mom and I think about my grandmother, I think I'm living for them almost. It's like I'm trying to live a life that they never did get a chance to live. And so when I was growing up and I would have family members and people would say, oh my goodness, you have your heart just like your mom. You're just like your mom. You sing just like your mom. You do this like your mom. And so I took those as pearls of just joy that, filled my heart, because it's just like I didn't know her, but to be able for someone to say that you are like her, it always, and it still does, it chokes me up, because that's what I want. I want, for her to be looking down, both of them from heaven going, that's my girl. That's my girl. That's her, and that just brings me joy. And so over the years, that has been one of the things that has been my drive, and it still is, to be able to be pleasing, and to, when people think about them, they think, wow, she belongs to them.
That's beautiful. So you're in your teens in New Haven, Connecticut. Did you have any jobs or anything when you were young?
Oh, that's a good one. So actually, I befriended one of the ladies that lived next door to us, and actually she was almost 10 years older than I was, but my mind was so much more advanced, and I was helping her with things, and vice versa. And through that, our friendship, she of course introduced me to some of her cousins that was my age. And that's where I came also acquainted with the YMCA, and, started doing some things there. And that's why that has a good, vibe for me here, being, part of that environment as well. But I remember the family, they took me in, her family, they took me in. They were Christians. Every time they went to church, I went with them. My grandmother and I, we didn't have much. And as a matter of fact, she was on, government assistance and all of this. And that's how we lived. And we really didn't have anything. It was by the grace of God that, we was able to do the things that we did. And so this family the dad was actually the head chef at Yale. And he was over the culinary school. And I remember they said, okay, come on, you can, we're doing a catering event, you can come. And they would pay me well. They knew my situation and everything. But the thing of it that I remember was I ate good. Come on. I mean, and so that's where, they would have the clam chowder, the prime rib, the yeast rolls. And when I took food home to we ate good. And I remember that. And I think that's where my husband said, where did you get that palate from? And I think that was my humble beginnings, right? Of being, working with them and in the catering business, but they were just phenomenal. And through that relationship, we are still family today. So I still talk to them, all of them. When something happens, we transfer information and all of this, but that was a family. And it was through that family that, coming up from Alabama, we didn't really say, I love you. We're just getting by. I love you meant you got food on the table, you got a place to sleep. I love you. That you didn't have to say it per se. But I remember the first time I heard, one of my friends, they was going out of the building, and the mom turned around and she said, I love you. And the girl, she turned around and said it, and I said, and in that moment, something sparked in me, and like, I think we're supposed to be doing that. So, and then I would go back, and I would tell my grandmother, and I would tell them, hey, I love you. And I remember the first time I started saying this to my family, they were like, okay, click, and, because they didn't know.
My grandmother used to say thanks. She was a depression
right.
every day. She didn't mean it in a bad way.
Right.
I love you, Grandma. She's like, thanks. I'm like 2-year-old kid. Like, thanks.
Yeah. So you get it.
Yeah.
And so I started calling all of my family, and I would tell them the same thing. And I would say, hey, I love you, and they're just like, oh, okay. And they literally would hang up the phone. And when I got ready to join the military, I remember my grandmother was very ill, and I didn't know to the point that it was as bad as it was. And she didn't tell me. And I remember getting ready to go my first assignment, and we'll talk about that later as well. But one of the things that she told me was, she gave me her wedding rings, and she said, I need you to keep the family together. Keep the family together. And that's one of the things she always prided, is telling them to get along and to stay together. And so even though they all were older than me, I took that as a mission. And so that's one of the things that I love you. I would call all of them and say, hey, I love you. I love you. And so today, that's who we are. And it just changed the trajectory, of our family, is being able to see something and being able to emulate that and be able to share it with my family and to be where we're at today.
Well, good deal. So
Yep.
You alluded to a little bit. How do you end up in the armed forces? Did you start that when you were young, or?
Yeah. Okay. That's another story. So actually, when I was in my senior year, I was gravely sick, to the point where I really thought that I was going to die. And because my mom had died early, when she was 25, and I said, well, maybe this is just what, my fate. And the doctors really didn't know what was going on. And so every day, I had something else that was going on with me, where I couldn't even get up some days. And the thing of it is that if I hadn't went to school, my grandmother she probably wouldn't even said it. Nobody probably would have said anything, because it probably wasn't even a big expectation. It was just like, well, if she doesn't go, she don't, and that's how I felt. I was kind of on my own. And I remember calling my cousin, and I said, hey, I actually called the school. This is my situation. I'm very sick. I'm sending you this information by my cousin. Send all of my homework. She'll put it at the door. When I feel I'm able to get up and do the homework, I'll get up and do it. They can pick it up from the door, and she'll bring it to you. And that happened for almost over 2.5 months. And I took that responsibility on myself. And if it was 3:00 in the morning and I felt like I had enough energy to do the homework, I would do it. And I think that was just a byproduct of, of being a good, a learner, but being able to pour in myself, knowing that there was more in me to give. And I think that's when I really started, I was thinking, I got to do this for my mom. I got to do this for my mom. And so I think that's when accentuating the leader, that was my first favorite word, was accentuate. And I was in the 3rd grade when I realized that this word meant, to amplify, to heighten, to bring into awareness. And I would just always go to my family and say, you need to accentuate that. And they're looking at me like, what are you saying? And so I think that's when I really began to understand what it was to accentuate the leader from within. And because I could have took the easy way out. I could have said, I'm not going to do, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do it. And I did. So getting back to your question, the teacher came around in my senior year, and she, what are you going to do when you graduate? What are you going to do when you're going to graduate? And I said, I'm going to go to college. And without even having to look me in the eye, she just said, you need to pick something else, because that's not an option for you. And I think, as an adult now, looking back, I think she said that because she maybe didn't want me to get my hopes up high, knowing where I come from. and knowing, I've been out of school and doing all, and was ill and all this different things. So, but nonetheless, she didn't know that what I already had in me. Being a reader, knowing what my cause was, knowing that, I wanted, to make my mom proud, even though she's in heaven, I knew that there was so much more in me. So I get a partial scholarship to Wilberforce University in Ohio. And uh, one day I had to give a speech. I had another class, that was a lot harder. So I had to put a lot of bandwidth in that class, and I had to give a persuasive speech. And I'm listening to the TV at the time, and the Air Force commercial comes on. And I remember that the Air Force recruiter at high school coming in, and so without even thinking about it, I said, okay, that's good. I'm going to go talk about the Air Force. So I get in this class, and I'm the Air Force, a great way of life. You get a job, you get good pay, you get to go to school and all this stuff. And then lights went ding, 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 ding. Rita, go in the Air Force. So I kind of recruited myself and it worked out perfect. And so, and that has brought me to where I'm at today.
So you enlisted right away?
I did. I went, and when I initially...
Were you trying to fly an airplane or just find a job?
No, at the time I was thinking about education and finishing my education and having a good job. And so it wasn't about, all the other, it was really about self-preservation and coming in and being able to serve my country and to do something that I knew would position me to be better than I was by myself. So.
Well, it's amazing. I find this story that you're on I think it's our 40th episode of the podcast, where people are coming up, and I talk about limiting beliefs a lot.
Oh.
So like, where you can have one person, we allow this, and it's better now in coaching and personal growth that you learn these things, that you can allow one person, just because you respect them or like them, who doesn't know anything about your story, to be like, you shouldn't go to college. And it takes a lot to overcome that, because a lot of people are like, shouldn't go to college. It'd be like a guitar player. Yeah. Guitar player might have a famous musician tell them give up, and two people, one person will give up, the other one will go triple down on it. And the same thing about being exposed to stuff. Like, I try very hard to expose my daughters to as much stuff as I can, so that they're not just doing my dream, they're doing their dream. And the Air Force has been the most impressive thing locally here. Mm-hmm. I think you were still there when Samantha Weeks was the first female Thunderbird pilot, and she was the commander of the base. Yeah. The example she set to my daughters, I don't know if any of them will go in the Air Force, but it's a realistic, tangible thing for them to do. It made them want to go to space camp and do the Air Force training. Like, they want to, it's real. But like, growing up in New Orleans, we had one person from my 250 person graduating class that went in the military.
Oh, wow.
It just wasn't it didn't, in the 1990s in New Orleans, nobody was talking about the military to us. Mm-hmm. It was a private Catholic school. So, a few poor kids like me, but most of the kids were rich kids. But like, it wasn't even a thought. Whereas here, like, I talk to kids at Heritage who are going to the Air Force Academy, and I talk to kids at Columbus High School who, as long as, if they visit them, they get to know. Yeah. I went and spoke to Columbus High School kids a couple of years in a row, and they wanted me to talk about real estate. I'm like, you really shouldn't do it till you're older. You don't make money right away. But I said, are y'all aware that y'all can go to EMCC almost for free for 2 years? And I said, 4 years from today, you can be making $70,000 a year at one of these factories, and they're dying for local people to do it. Like, and the kids were like, nobody's ever come to talk to us about it. Wow. Which made me go to, I talked to some of the schools in the EMCC. I'm like, y'all got to get in here. And that's, somebody told you not to go to college, and you might have been like, oh yeah, like, you don't know me. The same thing about the Air Force. Like, if you hadn't been exposed to that one meeting, then you either fortunately or unfortunately wouldn't have gone in. So how were your first couple of years in the Air Force? What did they have you doing?
Actually, I started out in engineering, which I absolutely love. And I am one of those people in the Air Force that, the entire journey was just a blessing to me. And I actually, it was actually a ministry to me. So when I first started, I started in the reserve, actually, and then kept going to college for a little bit. And I realized that it was more conducive for me to go ahead and go full time, which worked out great. And so from there, just being able to apply what I've already, was bringing into the Air Force. And I think because I was older anyway, and long story short, when I went to basic training, I actually was one of the ones that almost didn't make it, because I wanted to help everybody. And, they were like, if you need to be over here, but somebody was having a hard time, they need to go see the chaplain, they need to go to the clinic. I'm like, come on, let's go. We're going. And I remember in the military, you get these little slips. If you mess up, they write it. They'll take one out of your pocket and they'll write it up. And then if you get so many, they'll just dismiss you, or just say, hey, you're not conforming. And I never will forget going into the commander's office, and he said, Rita, he said, normally you would be gone, but all of these slips were because you were helping somebody else. They were not about you. You were doing something for somebody else, making somebody else's bed, trying to braid their hair so they wouldn't get in trouble, and all these different things. And he says, we need people like you in the military, but you better not do it again. And I didn't. So long story short, I didn't. But that day, set me on a foundation to know in my heart that this journey that we're on is always about taking care of our people. Always about taking care of our people. And that is what made my military career so amazing. One of the jobs in the military is a first sergeant, and that's taking care of the people. It's removing the obstacles so that they can be their best. Whatever it is that they're going through, that person is there to take away those issues so that they can be ready for the commander, ready force. And I remember when I decided to become a first sergeant, I had people along the way, even mentors, that said, you shouldn't do that, simply because you're not going to be able to make your rank. You're not going to be able to get promoted. And I told them, I said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it. And so I did. I became a first sergeant, and God blessed me over in abundance. And so there's awards and things in the military, and I actually won high level all the way up to the Air Force level as the first sergeant of the year for the Air Force. And it's just when you are there for the people, and I'm telling you, you have a heart to emulate Christ, and no matter what it is that you do, he'll get you to where he wants you to be. Not where Rita wants to be, but where he wanted me to be. And so I am truly blessed, truly blessed.
So how did your career progress from engineer, and where do you end up down the road?
All right. So from engineering, and then from there, I did become a first sergeant, and because you have to be a certain rank to even apply for that. So once I became an E7, which is a master sergeant, I went and put the package. I had my package even ready before I would go to people, and I kind of speak things in existence. I was going to the first sergeant even before, I was like, I'm going to be a first sergeant. If you need me to help you, I can help you. Tell me what you want me to do. But I am going to be a first sergeant. Every base I went to, I told them that. And then, of course, so it wasn't surprised when people said, yeah, she's a first sergeant. And so from there, when I was able to get that position, I didn't want to leave it, actually. And so the next progression for me was a command chief. And so after that, that's when I was very fortunate to get the job here in Columbus. And so the plan, when I first started interviewing, the plan wasn't to come to Columbus. I was actually interviewing for a job in Florida. And the person still had one more person to interview because they was down in Iraq, and they wanted the system process to be fair. But the way it works is the first person or commander that calls you and say, you're going to be the first, I want to hire you, you got to go. And so it was here. And, the best thing about it is this is exactly where God needed me to be. This is exactly where I should be. Why? Because I get here, I'm 2.5 hours away back from Selma, and I built a relationship with my dad. So I didn't grow up with my dad. I would come and visit my family in Alabama, and we would do a quick lunch or something like that. But it wasn't until I got stationed here that I was able to build a relationship with him. The last year, 2016, my husband and I, Dirk, and who's also retired military, our goal was to go back to San Antonio, and that's where we had decided to retire. But because I built this relationship with him, it was very special. And so 2016, he shared with me that he had cancer. And at that point, he said, I need you to come to Alabama. And that's when he told me he had cancer. And he said, I need you to come. I need you to meet my family. I need you to meet my wife. I need you to come in the house, not just meet. And that's what I did. And so, of course, Rita style, I walk in, I just hug her, and we just started a relationship from there. So when I did retire, I told my husband, I said, hey, can we just stay here for a little while, because I built this relationship with him and I don't want to leave. And so because I had the time and the resources and to be able to support him, I was able to go to Alabama, pick him up from his appointments, to go to Montgomery, bring him back to Selma, come back here, and so kind of, when he had to stay there in Montgomery, I stayed there at the base there, and, so I could be close to him. And so that worked out where I could build a relationship, learn about him, and kind of just get close. And so when he passed away, I felt like that was an assignment for me. And so I told my husband, I said, well, my dad has passed now. So, and he said, no, we're going to stay here. And so it was just a great decision, because we was already immersed into the community. And it wasn't until I actually was stationed here that my dad had even ever visited my home. And not only that, that was the first time he had even saw me in my uniform, and actually came to an event. So all of these things happened because I was in the right place at the right time. And before I arrived here, I was actually stationed in Hawaii, and I know that he wouldn't have been able, to do that. None of my family probably, would have been able to do that. And so that was just such a blessing, and being an only child, but surrounded by, a huge family. So it was just, they were all at the retirement. Literally, I had the whole building was packed, and just family and friends that came in for this event. And I never will forget that. And I just know that was a God wink, a divine moment, that he orchestrated everything in my life to bring me all the way back to Mississippi to be close to him. And it was after my dad passed, I got a phone call, and it was a recording, and it was his wife, and she said, Rita, this is your mom. And I think I still have it. I probably do. I still have the recording. But I was there, when my dad passed. I was the one that was there to tell her that he had passed. And so it's all God.
That's so cool. So what year did you end up here in Columbus?
2014.
And what year did you retire?
16.
Okay. And what were your last 2 years here? Tell the folks what you were doing on base.
So the last, I was on base, and I was actually hired by Colonel Weeks to be the public affairs director. And so it's an amazing job, and it's one that, being on the other side, and now being able to do that for her was simply amazing. So when you're in that position there, it assimilates you into the community very quickly, because you're the connector between the base and the community, and makes it even more special. And having been the command chief and been in a position right next to the commander, and to be able to serve in that capacity was amazing.
Okay. Well, that's where I first ran into you here in town, when I was trying to get involved with the base. And it's funny because, like, a lot of insurance people, realtors, business people, the Military Affairs Committee, which is from the Chamber of Commerce, and there's a base community council. Now that I've been involved with both for 10 or 11 years plus, probably at least 11, I have seen, and I was probably like everybody, went into it, I'm like, oh, this will be good to make connections to get business. To a man or to a woman, every person who I knew who walked in there that way gave up after a while, because that is not what you're in there for. When you're in there, you're in to help. But number two, what I tell people when I'm encouraging them to do it, I'm like, the energy you get from going to that base and meeting the young kids and the new people and the enlisted and the people working reminds you to value your relationship and your pride in the country. I go there to get energy, like the base community council thing. I'm like, this is just like, I leave there and I'm like, USA. And again, meeting Samantha Weeks is a historic commander of the base. I'm thinking of, like, for when I'm trying to find examples for my women, you were on a list that I posted, I think in 2016, where I'm like, Renee Sanders does this, Rita does it, Samantha Weeks does this. And Lynn Sproul is a good example. The mayor of Starkville is the first woman to land on a carrier. And I'm like, we're in the middle of nowhere in Mississippi. And I'm trying to find, like, when we made a conscious decision to stay here in 2013, because we're both kind of big city folks, we're like, we want to expose them to every opportunity that they have and make sure that they meet everybody they can, because I am consistently blown away that there's people here who've built billion and $1 million businesses. There's, I've had friends who I knew from a national level at Papa John's who knew I was into like personal growth and stuff. And they're like, can you even find anybody to talk to there? And I'm like, there's a lot of big, I've had Amy Bogue on the show, and
Oh, absolutely.
people who are just heavy hitters into coaching and business. And I've interviewed another business coach today. People who are just into it like I am and get all goofy about it and realize how important it is in your life and how much it helps you consciously and consistently like affect others. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after your time at the base, what was your first step into were you planning on just retiring? Because I don't think anyone who knows you thinks you sit still.
I do stay still. I do. There are moments. But when I first retired, I actually jumped in. I got a call from the junior ROTC down in Maxwell, actually. And they said, hey, Chief, I know you're still there. You're going to be in the area. We'd like you to go over. We're looking at closing well, actually, we need some help over at Columbus High School, junior ROTC. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And what a great experience for me, simply because when you're dealing with our youth and that next generation at any level, is always a blessing, because that connects you to the heart of the community, our next generation. And so that was just a blessing. And I think that just kind of led into, everything else that I'm doing is once you can understand some of those issues and the concerns, especially when it comes from our youth, it gives you that energy to do the things that you do, because you want to make a difference, you want to make an impact, and knowing that next generation, they deserve that. So.
Okay, so you're helping with the ROTC. I talked about on Career Day, like how important it is to expose these kids to ideas. Like, Stephen Jones, a good friend of mine, the mayor, and I've talked to a bunch of other people, and, you're always talking about like, how do you set an example for the youth in the community? And the missing father figures are often a big part of that, but that's something that the government can't fix, And he and I talked about the next biggest thing was making them realize the opportunities that are out there. Because when you think it's hopeless, or you think McDonald's is the only job you're ever going to be able to get, it doesn't seem tangible because you're not seeing somebody. So from the ROTC, what was the next step for you?
That's actually when I went back to the base as civil service for the public affairs director.
Okay. And how long did you serve doing that?
That was about 2.5 years. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was 4 years. I must have been having a lot of fun. That was 4 years. And then it was one day, literally, I was walking out, and it seemed like I got a proverbial tap on the shoulder, and it's like, okay, it's time for you to transition to what's next. And so that's when I made the decision to resign from there and just to go full time in some things that I wanted to do. And then from there, I did go to the YMCA to kind of do some Christian mission work there, which, at any time I tell them, hey, if you need me, I'm there. But it's just about living a life of service. The one thing that's so important for me is when we're looking at the marketplace, ministry in the marketplace is so important and is so needed. And I tell people, you have people, you go to church on Sunday, you go to church on Wednesday. But I said, you're in these jobs every single day in the marketplace from 8 to 12 hours a day. And I said, we have to have that light that's permeating within these communities and in the businesses in this area, because those are the ones that's going to help to be able to build a better community, right? And if you don't have business, and if you don't have thriving businesses, and if you don't have those businesses that's predicated on foundational integrity, and doing those things that are right, it takes away from the opportunities within our community. So when we're all in this together, we are truly a light together. And when people can see that, I'm telling you, doors are open and opportunities will be there. And that's what we want for our community.
Okay.
And I thank you, because that's what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, part of the thing when I spent some time on 4 years. For 4 years, I owned part of the Columbus Packet, and that was from 2010 to 14. And I saw the worst Columbus had to offer. Mm-hmm. And in 2013, we were transitioning and doing something else. And we talked to my wife, and I'm like, we can go back. It was easy for me. It's still easy. I can go back to New Orleans right now. I can go to Louisville, Kentucky, or Atlanta. I could go. Mm-hmm. But when we said, hey, we're going to stay, we said we're not going to wait to get invited to parties anymore. We're going to throw the parties, and we're going to try to affect change in the community I say one punch at a time. So one small event, one little thing. We didn't have much money when we started, and we still probably give it away to a fault now. But like, I'm addicted to that feeling, that little, I call it giving the perfect Christmas gift. Yeah. Just that little move and walk away and just be like, oh, we changed. And I love it when there's an event that wasn't happening and I can walk away from it and be like, that literally wasn't going to happen if we didn't do it. Yeah. And so, and sometimes when you do that a lot, people call on you to do it. So when Zachary's caught fire in 2019, Doug Robertson from Cadence Bank called me to meet him up at Zachary's, and I met there, and there were like 30 people, like business leaders in the community. Yeah. And they're like, okay, Colin, what's your plan? And I'm like, what do you mean me? Awesome. So it was neat, because to me that was a welcoming to the community, because I would just kind of assume, it wasn't that I was waiting for somebody else to throw them a fundraiser, but like I was like, oh, they're going to tell me what they're going to do and I'm going to help. And that's what I'm addicted to now. That's what I love, is when people are like, oh, we need move these little things or move some pieces around. Like I take a lot of washer dryers and fridges from people who, when they move and they don't want them. And then Stephen Jones, the mayor now, very quietly has helped me for years, and we'll keep them somewhere. And then when there's a fire in the community, they know to call us and go there. And you could go there, nobody sees it, and it's cool, and it's nice. And we don't have a whole warehouse full, but sometimes we have 3 or 4, and it never comes in better timing than that. Don't have the time to start a whole mission, but like we have, to a fault, there are so many generous people in this town.
It is.
Most of them just need a little bit of push or direction so people know. I can't tell you how many times, like, I want to do this, but nobody's coming. I'm like, you have to advertise as much of a business or more. Yeah. Because there's so many like unclaimed thing that goes on with not like scholarships and, Prairie Opportunity, all these little groups that'll help people. They get a little worn out from the people who know how to work the system and want free stuff all the time. But Habitat for Humanity has helped regular folks for me get a new door and not build the whole house, but just small stuff. And that's where Renee at United Way has just been phenomenal as a connector of just people, where I was like, I sure hope she doesn't leave the area. She's at the Y a lot too.
Yes, yes.
But I mean, I met her, and like, she put me on her executive board for a little while, and then I got off, and I'm like, I'm here to help you, but like we're a little too similar in that go part of it. But and I have some super friends who I call when there's something, that's fixed with $500 or $600. I'll be like, hey, I can text Scott Ferguson, Mr. John at United Deli, Trip Harston, Lindsay Clemens, who's an attorney who's very generous, a lot of people, and we can fix a small problem quietly and quickly. So talk about what you're doing now.
All right. So right now I am located at 202 7th Street North, right in the Old First Baptist Church. And I absolutely, absolutely love it. And my job, when I look at coaching and consulting, I absolutely love it. I equate that almost to being a first sergeant in the military. I just do it for the community now. And what does that mean? That just means that I love, being able to remove those obstacles for people to get them where they want to be, or where they, where they feeling stuck. And sometimes people realize when somebody say they're stuck, no, it just means that you've gone as far as you can go by yourself and you need help. And once you start to realize that, and like Colin has just said, there are so many amazing people. Sometimes, you see, we can see all the bad, and we can see all the things we think that are not being done. But you have amazing and phenomenal people in this community that are just doing great work. They're doing the hard work. I mean, and not this work, the hard work. And I'm just excited about being part of it. Just like you, Colin, my husband, he's like, you'll just give away the store, and it's just, and it's not, I'm not there, and having understand the need for support is not to give, a handout, but it's to give a hand up. And once you realize that there are so many people that's just waiting for somebody to come along their path and just say, here, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. And that's what I love about what I get to do every day. I mean, sometimes I have to pinch myself, because that's what I enjoy doing, is being a conduit of hope for people that, it's just like, I just don't know what to do next. And we have phenomenal people, whether they're counseling here or coaching in the community, that they want to help. I want to help. And that's why on my motto, I put, I'm for you. And you have so many people here in this community, and I'm just proud and very honored to be one of those people that say, I am for our friendly city. I'm for the GTR. And I'm just blessed to be here.
What's the name of your company?
It's Rita Felton Coaching and Consulting. And so, just remember Rita Felton. And my number, just in case, is 833-385-RITA. I'm just going to tell you that because then you won't forget it. It's 833-385-RITA.
Well, as the owner of 329 Sold, I think there's still a lot of value in having the names in there. Maybe people might have to be over 40 to understand that the numbers, my kids still barely understand it. They're like, what is your number again? I'm like, come on. And that's the same reason I have like the website or whatever, because my name's kind of hard to spell. And I've had ColinKrieger.com since the turn of the century, and nobody can spell my name, so it doesn't matter. Are you mainly consulting with small businesses now, big businesses, or individuals?
I do all because I love the consulting part. So when you're looking at the coaching piece, I just want people, no matter what is going on in your life, sometimes you just need somebody to hear what it is and find a safe place to say it out loud. And so when I'm looking at the coaching piece, it's really to move people forward, with clarity and confidence, right? To encourage, to say, this is what I want. And, and I'm going to put a plug in for an initiative going into 2026 because I want you to have the best 2026 you can possibly have. And so when we're looking at that, it all comes together when we're talking about the consulting piece of it. It's about me using all of the experiences, everything that has been poured into me. I have a commodity of knowledge is what I call it. And we have a responsibility to be able to help people with that knowledge that we have. And so when I do the consulting piece of it, it really is using my background, all the education and everything that I have to pour into someone to move a project or something that they are trying to move and get it where it needs to be.
And so is a lot of it the personal coaching? Because I have a coach who's helped me a phenomenal amount. I've interviewed 2 coaches in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. And so if people want to, I know they want to get in touch with you, but what does that look like? Do you meet with people once a week, twice a week, or? Yes. Are you doing Zoom calls? What are you doing?
I do Zoom call. I do in-person calls, in-person sessions as well. And so really, once you call the 833-385-RITA number, you can also, you'll get a link that goes to a discovery call. And once we do that discovery call, because guess what, like Colin said, he had several people, that's come in from a coaching perspective, and everybody is not for everybody, right? We are, but I might not be the best fit for you, and someone else that was on the show earlier might be a better fit for you. And so when I do that discovery call, I'm really trying to make that connection to see if I'm the best fit for you, because that's the starting point. Once we make that I am the person to work with you, from there we'll move forward and we'll set up the sessions, and based upon I also do the DISC personality assessment, because I want to know what your personality, what that looks like, and once we kind of go through all of those, then we can kind of set up those sessions, and then we can kind of go over what is it that you're trying to do, where are you trying to get, and go from there.
Okay, well, coaching's benefited me a lot personally, and I think it's because I go back to the limiting belief part of it, that most people are kind of stuck in some situation that they've probably put on themselves, that they've frozen on themselves and stuck going oh, I can't do this, or I posted something a couple weeks ago that your success, your family, your success, your life is not predicated on your zip code.
That's right.
I can send you to Nick Parrish at Burns Dirt Construction. That has gone from 3 trucks to 60 trucks in 4 years. I can cite unlimited amount of businesses that people would tell you, oh, you can't make that much money here in Columbus. There's nothing to do. I sold 100 houses in 1 year in real estate. It's not supposed to happen. We're in a little town. I think there's just so many people who just haven't been exposed to it. Just like we talk about the high school kids, there's adults who think, I can't overcome this. Right. I can't get past this. I can't do it, just because they've never seen it before.
That's right.
And not everybody has the imagination of a very young Rita going, oh, I can overcome this. I can teach myself. That's my middle daughter is at MSMS right now, and she had, just like a lot of kids, they run into a buzzsaw with that math class. And she was in trouble in the math class, and they sat her down, and they're like, you're going to study 3 hours a day, 5 nights a week, and do it. And that was earlier this semester, and now she's almost got an A in the class. But what it taught her, forget the math, it taught her that I can fix this, that I can, next time and now her other classes, when she has a challenge, she knows she says, I'm going to lock it down.
That's right.
So she could have stayed at our house this weekend and goofed off and ate Christmas cookies, but she went back to school and studied because she knew. Awesome. she learned a lesson from them, which is how to teach herself and how to fix her own problems. And I do that a lot. Like I like YouTube, but like I take classes and courses, and I think I saw you in your first civilian world with the John Maxwell program thing. It was I don't know if it was Vibrant Church then the first time you did it. Was it? It's at Vibrant, but was it Vibrant or was it another name to the? Didn't one of the church another name? Okay. Yeah. And I enjoyed that. Yeah. So talk about are you still involved with the Maxwell thing, or was that just a stepping stone?
Okay. I am, and so that was one of the things, and it just goes back to my wanting to learn. I am one of those people that had books that probably, for this girl right here probably wasn't the norm. Like Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, all of those. I mean, literally, I have those books, and I think I have thousands of books between my home, my office, and on my iPad. And I just love the learning piece of it. And so the John Maxwell, once I started realizing, and actually when I started, I'm dating my age because I was listening to him on a cassette, and but I started learning quickly, the value of leadership. And so in 2016, when John Maxwell team actually started a certification program, it was a no-brainer to me. I said, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do it because I had already been teaching on the military base, teaching my subordinates, on the base and everything, and in different locations. And we started, sharing that information over a period of time. So for me to be part of that John Maxwell team is no surprise to me at all. And so one of the things is, every year, I spend the money, I go to, and I still have a coach as well, Colin, because that's so important. And I go to these sessions down in Orlando twice a year. And Live to Lead is one of those things where John Maxwell say, we need to package something up to be able to send back that you can purchase as a license and take it back to your community. And so that's what I've been doing, is bringing it back. And I tell people, and I know, sometimes people don't have the resources to be able to do these things. And that's why it's so important when our communities are, you have people in the community that's hosting things like this that can make you better. Just jump in, take the opportunity. I don't care if you stay all day or half a day or whatever that looks like, but you have an opportunity to make yourself better, to learn, to grow. And if you never went, then it's for you. It's for everyone. It's for that person that is an avid learner. For us, I still go to, if I see something that I know would be a benefit to me, I lean in because I want to be the best person that I can be. And so it is my hope that on January 10th, over at the 202 7th Street North, that you will make an opportunity to make your way over to that event, because I know without a doubt that it's something that every person can get. Every speaker might not speak to you, but it's going to be one speaker that's going to say something and give you one nugget that's going to change your trajectory for 2026, and that's what I want for you.
Is it going to be in the Central Baptist, or the church was, or is there another meeting room?
No, it's going to be in the actual sanctuary area there. And so one day, half a day is not going to be nearly enough to pour everything into everybody. And that's why for 2026, the Lord has put on my heart, for 52 weeks, I'm going to do 52 free classes. Every week you have a class, whether it's on something spiritual, whether it's something wealth, health, relationships. It could be marketing your job. We're also going to have speakers that's going to come in that have some of this knowledge that's going to be able to share with you. I want our community to lean into this. And the challenge is 1,000 people. And I know that, it's going to be a little something for everybody. If you want to come every time, that's great. But if it's something that, strikes, your chord, and it's like, that's the class I need to be in, then I hope that you will take that opportunity and become one of the 1,000.
Who are some of the speakers that are going to be? Because it's like a streaming event, right, for the speakers?
Yes, for the Live to Lead, it is a streaming event. But the good thing is that the same program, the same opportunity that I received sitting in those seats in Orlando, Florida, is the exact same opportunity that the attendees will get as well. So when you come, you will, I will still be leaning in, because it'll be something that maybe I didn't hear there that I'll hear. But this is available, and it's going to be, it's for you. I'm just going to tell you, just come out. It's for you.
And if they want to get tickets to it, how much are tickets? Do they go on your website, or what do we do?
Actually, I made it easy. I've actually have a domain that is livetoleadcolumbus.com. Live to Lead Columbus. And that's live with the number 2, lead, Columbus.com.
Okay, remind us of the date and time again.
The date is January 10th next year, 2026, and it's going to begin at 9 o'clock. And I will also be working with some of our local vendors, so maybe we can have, some fun food, hot dogs or something there as well, so that you don't have to leave. But we'll be working on that. But it is my hope that you will take up the challenge and come on out. The tickets are $10, $39, and $79. And it is something that comes along with each one of those. And I hope that even if it's just a $10 ticket, that you know that you're worth it. And I hope that you'll come out and you'll hear from these great speakers.
And what day of the week is that?
That is on a Saturday.
Oh, see, that's great. So if somebody, say, I'm going to challenge some people here, but like a lot of my personal growth friends like Andrew Benton at Benton's Maintenance Mechanical, or Amy Bogue at Allegro Spa and Clinic and all that, if they can't make it and want to send some of their staff, I mean, they can get the $79 ticket, but they could send some $10 thing, or they could sponsor some kids from some schools or something like that to go to. Because I can tell you from the one I went at Vibrant Church, I obviously still remember it, but I met 3 people there who I got numbers from who weren't about, I wasn't trying to network to buy a house, but they were just personal growth junkies and people I still know to this day. So you never know. I always say, and when I mentor people, I'm like, go to the event. Like if you're thinking about go, as Mel Robbins says, like 3, 2, 1, just go. If you can scrounge up the money to go, because you never know. Again, I've been to 36-hour-long, 3-day event marathon things with Tony Robbins and all these stuff. But it's been some obscure speaker that I never heard of that connected with me, or somebody I sat next to in the crowd or met getting coffee. So you never know when that opportunity is going to present itself. Much like little girl from Selma, Alabama, didn't know that she was going to be an Air Force person in Connecticut, moved to Ohio, and do all the stuff that had to happen to be here today and for everything to be fine. So
And actually, we're going to have one of our local speakers, and I know that you know him well, Keaton Blocker. He is just a phenomenal young man. And I tell you, if you got your youth out there and you want to hear from someone that understands what it means to accentuate the leader within, it's Keaton.
Oh, well, that's great. I didn't know he was going to be there. That's awesome. I talk to Keaton almost every day. We had him on the podcast for and Keaton's battling a bunch of health issues and stuff, but man, he's keeping his chin high, and he is newly ranked a colonel in Kentucky. He has been writing letters to businesses and officials, and he's basically saying, listen, I'm dying. I want to set a good example for my son. That's how I opened my podcast with him. I'm like, this is my friend Keaton. Keaton's dying. Yeah. And he's doing a real good job living out loud for somebody who might die. I told him, I'm like, eventually you're going to die. But he's, he could have sat still and sat at home and not made it 3 months.
Like Keaton.
He's doing real good. He's working out every day at the gym and he's doing stuff. So, and I'm probably going to see him tomorrow. So,
okay.
Well, good deal. All right. So we're going to see you on January 10th.
January 10th.
Live the lead, and they're going to know where to find you. We'll put it on the bottom of the screen in here when this podcast comes out a little bit after Christmas. All right?
All right.
Good deal.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate you.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast. My name is Colin Krieger, and my day job is real estate. If you're looking to buy or sell, I'd love to talk to you. Or if you just want to sit and talk real estate in a no-pressure situation, I'd love to help you. I work with RE/MAX Partners in Starkville, Columbus, and West Point, Mississippi. I can help you find an agent anywhere in Mississippi or anywhere in the country. Just reach out to our office at 662-327-7705 or find me anywhere when you type in 662-329-SOLD.